Everything that's not a billionaire is woke. What's this, Shay?
I'm watching.
Insert controversial right-wing shill here. Why?
Freedom of speech.
Why do weird billionaires fund these platforms and invest so much money into stoking these culture wars between poor people?
Freedom of speech.
Yeah, there's loads of these deliberately controversial right-wing public figures around now. It's like there's a factory that's churning them out. Provocateurs masquerading as podcasters or political commentators, all being as offensive as they can to create more engagement on social media and so as to ensure their ideologies reach a wider audience.
Freedom of speech.
Yeah, but why do these right-wing people never seem to criticise the billionaires or think tanks that fund them and only ever go after minorities who have way less control over the world and thus less power to defend themselves? One might even call them easy targets.
It's freedom of speech.
They've created terms like virtue signalling and woke to try and shame people for feeling basic empathy towards other humans. It's almost as if caring about each other is counterproductive to the divide and conquer tactics they rely on to prop up their failed system.
Freedom of speech.
Although this tries to look like the news, in actual fact, it just pushes a very specific narrative. All of them do. Surely this is at odds with your free-thinking persona.
Freedom of speech.
These think tanks, podcasts and media companies, they receive huge funding from massive corporations who make enormous profits from oil and gas at your expense, like BP or Shell, just to name two. Everything from your bills going up and never down to the price of a pint being eye-wateringly high can be correlated to greedy oil and gas companies charging through the roof for their product. Isn't it obvious this is why they want you to blame minorities for your shortcomings and not the greedy executives in these corporations?
Freedom of speech.
And isn't it clear that this is why they want to push a climate change isn't real narrative to avoid working with sustainable energy which might harm their profits?
Freedom of speech.
And these corporations, by funding the flooding of your media with propaganda and rhetoric, doesn't this mean that because they can influence what you think and do and essentially who you are, they control you and by proxy the country without even ever being elected?
Freedom of speech.
Ah, well, whatever, mate. See you later. That was another wholesome episode of I Live with a Broken Right-Wing Robot.
Yeah, not this woke shit again.
Up next is That's the Rain On Now. That's the rain on now.
That's more like it.